part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Hawks Postcast, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's quick hitting local insight after every game. You can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst DeShaun Tate. The Hawks Postcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network now, the #1 sports podcast network. So, DeShaun, I was hoping that the Hawks would return home and kind of make my wish or my prediction come through from last night when I called it for 5 straight, but it wasn't meant to be tonight as the Hawks fell to the Houston Rockets 104-86. And it was a tough one because in the beginning, this game was closer, and we'll certainly talk about that. We'll certainly talk about our takes on why this game got out of hand. We'll also talk about our takes on the specific turning point that led to the Hawks' loss. And your take on it was as simple as, this is why size matters.
It's exactly why the size matters, because it's already bad enough that you're going up against a team with more size than you anyway. Yes. On top of that, not having Onyeka, Okongwu, Asa Newell, not necessarily the most ideal guy to step in there. And I know we talk about next man up, and the Hawks have done a great job all season long in terms of next man up. So many guys that are in the starting lineup consistently this year who are typically would be coming off the bench. But when you don't have Kristaps, Porzingis again, obviously Onyeka, Okongwu, for what it's worth, I get it. He maybe not the biggest, strongest guy in the world or whatever, but for the length and the defense and the athleticism and everything else that someone like Zaccharie Risacher brings, you don't have him either. Any little bit of experience, especially in the front court right now, is always a good sign. What's not a good sign is probably Christian Koloko being the starting guy. Yeah. So I kind of felt like it was going to be a long night against a very experienced plus front court, deep front line. Alperen Sengun coming off an all-star appearance. Amen Thompson was just a really good defender on multiple positions, bigs and smalls. And so plus Houston's like the #1 rebounding team in the NBA too. I don't think that helped the situation. So my concern was probably going to be, I would imagine probably going to be, oh, by the way, Jalen Johnson. Geez, how did I even forget this guy's name, for crying out loud? That didn't play. But probably my biggest concern was, what you're going to get on Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a bunch of threes, a bunch of scoring in bunches. And then obviously with CJ McCollum coming off the bench, you got to have some bench firepower from a scoring position as well. But who's going to be the next guy to step up and help? While I do think that Corey Kispert did a good job, they need a little bit more out of the nucleus of which I think they're building this team from 3, that being also Luke Kennard, Vit Krejci. Obviously not enough shots to go up and go through the rim, and they held on for as long as they could, riding the wave of the backcourt.
Yeah. So the injury report for the Hawks when it came out, it's like, my goodness, like you said, Jalen Johnson out with left calf tightness. Onyeka Okongwu, of course, that dental fracture from last night. Kristaps Porzingis left Achilles tendonitis out. Zaccharie Risacher still dealing with the left knee and bone contusion. So, I mean, that alone already told you what the storyline was going to be. But in addition to that, last night wasn't a game where even the starters were able to rest, because although the Hawks had a lead that they'd built up to like 23 points, Boston kept trimming the lead. So Quinn Snyder couldn't take his starters out. So they didn't exactly get, say, that rest in the fourth quarter, which could have maybe helped what you saw in the second half, where the starters, those who started last night and were able to play and start tonight as well, you started to see them really kind of wear down in that third quarter. And hey, Houston's coming off a tough one as well. But listen, a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Boston to Atlanta versus San Antonio to Atlanta. Those are 2 different types of back-to-backs.
And different weather on top of that. Feels like the same weather outside, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, and exactly. It makes a difference. So we kind of knew the Hawks were going to be behind the 8 ball because of their version of a back-to-back. But in addition to that, we knew that 9 times out of 10, there's Onyeka Okongwu's not playing. Like we Jalen Johnson, you kind of hoped, because he was still questionable up to just a couple of hours before the game. but ultimately couldn't go as well. So again, that when you have that situation, and that's kind of what my take was when you look at the fact that Double O got punched in the mouth last night. That's why Hawks couldn't punch back tonight. You saw the first quarter, hey, Hawks got a really good performance and really good contributions all over. That's why they were able to go into the first quarter tied with the Rockets 23-23. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 10 points in that first quarter. CJ McCollum, 7 points in that first quarter. And then you look at the second quarter for the Hawks as well. Let's see who. CJ McCollum again.
Yep.
With Christian Coloco's 5 points. But where you start to really see, and honestly, another area where, and I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but another area where you kind of saw the Hawks hang with the Rockets kind of blow to blow is just what you mentioned, which is rebounding. You think about how good this Houston Rockets team is, best in the NBA in rebounding, and the Hawks had 17. The Rockets had 18 in that first quarter. So that was a big reason why the Hawks were able to keep up with them, right? And then you go to that second quarter and you see that the Rockets had 12 rebounds. The Hawks had 12 rebounds. Again, what do we have at halftime? A 1-point lead by the Rockets. So the game is within hand, but then you start to see it. You start to see the wear and tear on the Hawks. You start to see Houston separate itself because Houston was able to then crash the glass. 17. They out rebounded the Hawks 17-6. And then you really started feeling the fact that Onyeka Okongwu was not in the lineup. Then you started to feel that Jalen Johnson was not in the lineup, because when you look back at the game against the Celtics just last night, you see with Onyeka Okongwu, before, of course, that nasty elbow that he got, he had 6 rebounds. Jalen Johnson had 14 rebounds. So out of the Hawks total 38, those guys alone had 50% of what the Hawks were able to get on the boards. When you lose 50% of your defense in that all-important area where another team is superior already, that's a recipe for disaster. And that's why we saw what we saw in that third quarter and really for the rest of the game, because after that third quarter, you just kind of looked and you said, yeah, this one's probably going to be out of hand, because there really wasn't anybody that showed that they could come back and maybe help the Hawks to reduce that 35-24 deficit, because even the threes at that point weren't really falling to kind of put the Hawks back in contention.
I agree. And I'm going to tell you what else. I do believe that while it was clear from a shot blocking standpoint and all the things that Houston was supposed to do, a little bit, this game could have definitely been worse. I mean, the Hawks didn't turn the ball over very much. I think I've been pretty impressed for the last couple games as far as that goes. But Houston also didn't shoot the ball well from the free throw line either, just right at about 70%. For much of the game, hovered somewhere right around that range. And if they would just hit some free throws, it definitely could have been much, much worse. But that being for a 20-point blowout, I kind of thought with the kind of lift that they eventually ended up getting from Corey Kispert kind of helped out. There's definitely more than enough instances this year where I'm like, Corey Kispert in the starting lineup, like, what exactly are we doing? And I don't think anybody's necessarily had high or low expectations for Corey Kispert. We know he hasn't been the guy that he isn't somebody that kind of you run home to tell mom about or anything like that, especially with this trade for Trey. Kind of overshadowed a little bit by what you were getting from CJ McCollum in this trade, but you know that he can come out and shoot the 3 ball. I thought that his numbers on tonight actually looked pretty good. 17 points, above 50% from the field, and still shot it relatively well from 3, not bad anyway. So I don't know. I think that honestly, this game was going to be what this game was going to be. I think that the Rockets are a better team. I think that the Rockets is in contention for an NBA championship. I think they're likely going to be the team. I know a lot of people don't necessarily agree but coming out of the West to go to the NBA Finals, as they should be with the pieces they've acquired, and plus a really, really good coach that's proven as well.
Indeed, indeed. So when we come back, we will tell you more specifically where that turning point happened in the third quarter. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can also upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number, and Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise, Quo's the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. So make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, so no missed customers. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in postseason mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel was and still is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, when you have every NFL playoff game day, which we are down to one, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. So each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. So DeShaun, like we were talking about earlier, the Hawks kept this thing close in the first half. The Hawks were able to have things all knotted up in that first quarter with the Houston Rockets. Second quarter, you go to halftime just a point down. And hey, if the shot had actually fallen right there at the end of the first half, the Hawks might have been up one. But hey, just down one. And then all of a sudden, deep into that third quarter, about 4 minutes into the third quarter, or 4 minutes left of the third, that's when things started to change. Now, Corey Kispert made a 3, but then the Rockets went on a 12-1 run, and it was pretty much a done deal. That was the turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
So yeah, DeShaun, tough go for the Hawks. They were trying to hang in there, and they did for about 2/3 of the third quarter, and then the bottom fell out.
And then the bottom fell out like the rain out of a cloud, Tenitra. I mean, like we could talk about KD and the way he contributed, because that was obviously a big piece to their run as well. Sure. It was kind of spread out. I don't think that Houston didn't necessarily put an exclamation point on that run, but the contributions that they got, ironically and coincidentally enough, I guess just the irony of guys that we welcomed back here to the city, right? So a big time basket during that run by Josh Okogie, Georgia Tech, a shot block by Jabari Smith, who's from right up the road, and then Clint Capella that we're welcoming back grabbed a couple rebounds during that stint too. Yeah. I don't know why it worked out that way or how it worked out that way. It just did, and that's where I think that things just kind of fell apart for the Atlanta Hawks. It wasn't helping that it's not that because Houston missed some shots throughout that stretch as well. It's not like they ran off for just 12 straight. They missed some shots in between. There was just the problem that the Atlanta Hawks were not able to put any points on the board. So I think it was good, solid defense by both teams, but better offense by one team during that span than the other team. And it just kind of really felt like that's when it was the most noticeable that all the energy, at least it felt like, right? I'm not saying this is the case, but the energy and the feel was almost as if everything that they needed during that particular portion of the run and during those key possessions, they kind of put into last night's game against Boston, where it kind of worked out for them, not so much on tonight.
Yeah, because like you said, numbers wise, the Hawks percentage in the third quarter ended up being higher, actually 47% from the field to Houston just shooting 44% from the field. But when you start digging deeper into the numbers, of course, that's where the challenge comes. And really, a lot of it was the free throw line and second chance point opportunities. Because again, even from three, Houston shot at a clip of 50%. The Hawks almost 56. But oftentimes in those situations, it's how many possessions do you actually have? How many opportunities do you actually have to be able to score and score again? And even like you said, when you look down the numbers, you just kind of see, okay, they both had 3 turnovers in that third quarter. So they both pretty much protected the ball fairly well. But again, when you start digging into those rebounds and the fact that of the 17 rebounds that Houston had, 10 of them were on the offensive boards, only 3 for the Hawks. So when the Hawks missed, that opportunity went right back Houston's way. When Houston missed, then they had an opportunity to once again put the ball in the basket. And if you're not going to, if your percentages are the same, but your possessions aren't, that's going to be a challenge.
Not enough second chance points, like you mentioned. I think that's where it really kind of hurt this team, is because there also wasn't a ton of long rebounds. A lot of times it was just about who can get to the highest peak of their jump when that ball is coming off the rim. Now, if these were some that was coming off a little bit weird off the rim, sometimes being that smaller team, you can get to the ball a little bit faster because you're lower to the ground. But these were just baskets that were just high up off the rim, and whoever had the height at that particular moment advantage and can jump higher was just inevitable that they were going to get that rebound. And I mean, not only that, but I really felt like in a situation where a game is going to be played the way that it was, like tonight, it was already a little bit slow starting and just some struggles on the offensive end, low scoring, especially in the first half and things like that. That was the moment that the Atlanta Hawks really had to take off and really hit a lot of their threes, because they were not hitting in a ridiculous way, the way that I felt like could have potentially been the only way that they could win this game, with the exception of the 7-0 run that they got off to start the game, that they weren't going to really stand much of a chance against this team. They had to convert on those 3-point attempts, and there just wasn't enough of them by a team who's still learning how to really balance out who's getting the shots from the perimeter and when. It really felt much like the Nickeil Alexander-Walker and CJ McCollum show tonight.
Yeah. That just wasn't enough of a show. But one more thing before we wrap up, right? So there was a moment in this game, and this is off the beaten path, but there was a moment in the game. You know how at the arena they play different games, right? So it might be that suitcase game where you got to ride the suitcases.
Oh yeah,
by Delta Airlines, or it may be the 3-point shot, or it may be like who can make the shot from half court. Well, tonight they played a game of tic-tac-toe, right? The entertainment team, and they picked 2 kids from the audience, and all you had to do was, when you make your shot, then you come back and you put your X or your O. So kid number one made his shot. Boom.
Okay.
And kid number 2 made his shot. Okay, now we're even. Kid number 1 goes back for his shot, misses. Kid number 2 makes the shot. But kid number 2, apparently, parents, you need to teach your kids better. Because kid number 2 didn't realize if you put the O in the top box, and you get a chance to put the O again, it needs to be, and this one was blocked going horizontally, then bring the O down vertically. That way, when you make, and also the bottom was blocked, so he couldn't go diagonal, he couldn't go vertical. All he could do was go, horizontal. All he could do was go vertical.
Yeah.
DeShaun, this kid made 2 for 2 and put the darn O in the middle. Boy, what are you doing? Teach your kids better. So, of course, kid number 1 tries back down to the arena. He tries back down to his basket. Bing! Tries back down, and he wins. The moral of the story, teach your kids.
Do better. Although I will say this, though, Tenitra, I feel like, and I'm not trying to give an excuse, I feel like sometimes these things, it's almost like Family Feud when you're watching at home in your own comfort in your own home. You're like, duh, who didn't think of this? But under those bright lights, though, Tenitra, it gets a little bit.
No, sir. No.
You got thousands of people screaming at you,
calming you down, helping you, giving you one more time. I think this was Shamia's game, Shamia Morton, and she gives you one more opportunity to go through the rules that you also go through before, because you have to sign off that you're okay with this. Your parents sign off. So you get the rules 2 or 3 times. No excuses. Kid, do better. But more importantly, parents do better, because your kids should have known how to play tic-tac-toe.
We've all only been playing this game since we was 2 years old.
Yeah. Do better, kid, and do better, parents. The Hawks Postcast is the #1 place to hang out after every game and is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So remember, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more on the Hawks, head over to Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. We'll see you next time.